the Afghan government to
Hello and welcome. You're watching India Global. I'm Osama Shaba. Merry Christmas to all. We'll get you all the highlights of the day and the big stories. But first, let's take a look at the headlines. A passenger plane with over 70 people on board crashes in Kazakhstan. Plane bursts into flames after crashing near Aktau. The plane had requested for emergency landing. Reports indicate at least 25 have survived. Pakistan targets Taliban bases in Afghanistan, killing 46 in the country. This is the second such strike by Pakistan against Kabul this year. The latest from Bangladesh, the ousted Prime Minister Sheikh Hasina's son, he denies graft allegations in Rupur nuclear project. As millions of Ukrainians celebrate Christmas Day, Russia has launched a major missile and drone attack on the country's energy infrastructure. Zelensky terms these strikes inhumane. Apple seeks to defend Google's billion-dollar payments in search case. Well, the big story that we are tracking at the top of this hour, in rare airstrikes, Pakistan targeted multiple suspected hideouts of the Pakistani Taliban inside Afghanistan, killing at least 46 people, including women and children. These strikes, targeting a mountainous area in Paktika province bordering Pakistan, reportedly aim to target alleged hideouts and training facilities of the Pakistani Taliban, known as Tehreek-e-Taliban Pakistan, or the TTP. This is reportedly the second such Pakistani attack on Afghanistan, the last being in March in the border regions inside Afghanistan. Now, Islamabad often claims that the TTP use Afghan soil to launch attacks in Pakistan, a charge Kabul has denied. Afghanistan has vowed to retaliate to the Pakistani airstrikes, saying the bombing targeted civilians, including women and children, mostly being refugees from the Waziristan region.
Late on Tuesday, sounds of explosions rocked a mountainous region in Afghanistan. According to reports, Pakistan targeted multiple suspected hideouts of the Pakistani Taliban inside its neighboring nation. The strikes were carried out in the Paktika province bordering Pakistan, killing at least 46 people, including women and children. Reports quoting Pakistani officials suggest that the strikes also dismantled a training facility and killed some insurgents. It was reportedly the second such Pakistani attack on alleged hideouts of the Tehreek-e-Taliban Pakistan since March in the border regions inside Afghanistan. Islamabad often claims that the TTP use Afghan soil to launch attacks in Pakistan, a charge Kabul has denied. Just last week, Pakistan had said that at least 16 soldiers were killed in clashes with militants near the Afghan border. The Tehreek-e-Taliban Pakistan had reportedly claimed responsibility for the deadly raid. Tehreek-e-Taliban Pakistan was formed in 2007 as an umbrella organization of various hardline Sunni Islamist groups operating individually in Pakistan. Formed under the leadership of Baitullah Mahsood, who has since died, the TTP is rooted along the Afghanistan-Pakistan border. Some estimates suggest TTP has between 30,000 and 35,000 members. According to the United Nations, its stated objective is to overthrow the elected government of Pakistan to establish an emirate based on the interpretation of Islamic law. The Afghan government has condemned the Pakistani airstrikes and said they won't go unanswered. The strikes come hours after Pakistan's Special Representative for Afghanistan, Muhammad Sadiq, traveled to Kabul to discuss a range of issues, including how to enhance bilateral trade and improve ties. With Vishal Vivek, Bureau Report for NDTV World.
Well, we'll try and understand the consequences of these attacks. And to give us some context, I'm currently joined by an Afghan journalist, Khushal Asifi. Khushal, just put it into context for us, this escalation that has taken place. What does this mean in the larger context?
Thank you very much for having me in the show. I convey my greeting to all the viewers of India TV and your guest in the panel. This is not the first time that Pakistan attacked Afghanistan. Actually, Pakistan has attacked Afghan soil since the establishment of Pakistan in 1974. The country has violated Afghanistan's sovereignty many times, contributing instability within Afghanistan. 2 days ago, they have also took the responsibility of attacking an Afghan employee's vehicle that they were carrying in your consulate in Jalalabad. They have attacked an translator and 2 and 3 of the YouTube of the Twitter account, which is related to Pakistan intelligence services. They have took the responsibility and said that Mr. Dawood was our target, our direct target. 1 week ago, the Pakistan Defense Minister, Mr. Khwaja Asif, has also said that Mahmoud Ghaznavi is a looter. Mahmoud Ghaznavi is a thief. Actually, Mahmoud Ghaznavi is our national hero. He is a part of our rich history. These all allegations and these are all the things that they have done in the past 2-3 weeks against Afghanistan, against Afghan soil. It does mean that they have violated international laws. It does mean that they have violated Afghanistan's sovereignty. Actually, the problem is on the ground that they cannot tackle, they cannot fight with insurgents inside Pakistan. They have very strong bases inside Pakistan, in Pakhtunkhwa, in Quetta, in Karachi, in Waziristan. Why Pakistan government is not tackling and fighting with insurgents inside Pakistan? Instead, they are coming and attacking on Afghan soil. This is just an allegation. There is no enough witness and proof that they can prove that we have killed. Actually, the number that I have until now is 51 people killed, including children, including women, in Barmal and then the Patan districts of Paktika, which is a province that has a shared border with Pakistan.
Right. All right, Khushal Asifi, thank you very much for putting everything in perspective for us. In fact, I'm also currently joined by Dr. Tara Karta, former Director, National Security Council. I also have with me Imtiaz Gul, a senior journalist from Pakistan. My first question to you, Mr. Gul, has the TTP been further bolstered by the Islamic attacks on the Taliban government?
Certainly not. I mean, the job of a proxy terrorist group is to pick and choose the timing and venue of its choice just to create instability. And I think what Daesh or what TTP has been doing has drawn attention of all the countries, including that of China, of Russia. I mean, even if you discount Pakistan's allegations or Pakistan's complaints of what the TTP is doing on the Afghan soil, at the Security Council meeting on the 12th of December, I think both the Russians and the Chinese basically called on the Afghan government to take concrete steps against all the Afghanistan-based terrorist groups, and they named the ETIM, they named the IMU, the TTP, and Daesh. So I think I would also request, when you take journalists for commentary on your platform, they shouldn't be singing songs that are rooted in the history. They should also go by the data. So what this Mr. Faruqi was saying, it sounded so one-sided charade of allegations.
Okay.
So I think there are certain facts, realities. The reality is that right now, whether it's the United Nations report from July 2024, whether it's the Russian and Chinese and the American speeches at the UN Security Council, they all point to one reality, and that reality is that all major Al-Qaeda affiliated terrorist groups are right now based in Afghanistan, and one of them, that is the TTP, is continuously attacking Pakistani targets. So this is what the Pakistani Air Force apparently tried to take out, the sanctuaries of the TTP in Paktika provinces, that is the east of Afghanistan.
All right, Dr. Tara Kartha, you heard Mr. Gul. Do respond to him, but also another big question that arises here is that is Kabul enabling TTP to launch attacks on the Pakistani soil?
I think I mean, Mr. Gul is an extremely respected journalist, but I would disagree with one thing.
Okay.
You know, Saudi Arabia has just opened an embassy I mean, it's embassy, if you want to call it, in Afghanistan. The Russians are dealing well with Kabul. The Chinese are dealing well with Kabul. So Kabul's terrorist groups are definitely, they are trying to take on the various other groups like the ISIS and things, and they have some capability. They're trying to do the best they can. But to your question, Kabul doesn't have an entire grip. I mean, no government in Kabul has ever had complete grip on the country. So a lot of the fringes, which is why Pakistan was able to launch its own jihadi operations for decades. I mean, Mr. Gul, I would ask you, I mean, since 1974, Pakistan has made life pretty miserable for the Afghans. So they have a stake here. But apart from that, the Tehrik-e, the TTP is largely Pakistani. They are not them, very few are Afghans. They are all people who are based in the tribal regions. So if they are attacking their own places, they have probably, I mean, you had some very, very severe attacks recently. I think the number given is 785 terrorist attacks in the last 10 months. So therefore, the Pakistan army has to do something, though I have not understood why they did this at a time when the special envoy was in Kabul talking of peace and cooperation and all the rest of it. And on the other hand, you launch airstrikes. There seems to be some kind of mismatch between these two policies. So it's a very puzzling thing. I don't know how it's going to benefit Islamabad.
No, it's puzzling because you are not aware of the entire situation, I would say, just because you are not aware that the TTP chief lives in Kabul as an official guest. The other leaders live in Paktia and Paktika. They are there treated as official guests. So all the logistical support that they require for launching terrorist attacks inside Pakistan, they get from inside Afghanistan. I'm not saying that the Afghan Taliban are directly supporting them in carrying out terrorist activities. They say that we have forbidden everybody from launching terrorist activities across the border. But then it's very difficult for a country like Afghanistan to plug the holes on the border. It's a 2,600-kilometer long border. So I think I would request to also focus on the current situation rather than going back to the 1970s and the 1980s when the CIA basically had started arming and funding all the Afghan Mujahideen against the Soviet Union. So this is a dividend from that jihad that the Americans had launched against the Soviet Union. Today, of course, Pakistan committed a lot of mistakes. Pakistan has had its share of contribution basically in the jihad as well as its share of suffering at the hands of terrorist groups like TTP.
Mr. Gul.
So we should rationalize discourse. I mean, you being an academic, I think should have a much comprehensive, much broader picture rather than just lunging into Pakistan by using the outdated information.
Okay, we'll get a response from Dr. Karta, but my question is, Pakistan's relationship with Afghanistan, it has deteriorated in the past couple of years. Will this attack on the TTP dent its relationship with Kabul further?
You're asking me?
No, that's for Mr. Gul.
Okay.
I don't think so. The relationship had remained frozen for almost a year and a half, just because particularly in September last year, when the TTP crossed the red line and Pakistan conveyed its protest to the Taliban government. And thereafter, the formal relationship basically froze. And now, after such a long time, the newly appointed Ambassador Sadiq visited Kabul 2 days ago, and he had a very, very candid conversation, and that was an indication that even the Afghan government basically was ready to cooperate in counterterrorism, and they can ignore Pakistan's demands for conclusive action against the TTP, but they certainly cannot ignore what the Russian and what the Chinese ambassadors at the UN Security Council said on the 12th of December as far as terrorist groups inside Afghanistan are concerned. So either you accept those, and even the United Nations report from July this year, as well as the US annual report that was released a few days ago, they all point just to one reality, that there are groups based in Afghanistan who are now carrying out terrorist activities across the borders of Afghanistan.
Okay, Dr. Karta, your response to that, a very quick response to that. Also, this entire turmoil in the neighborhood, should India be concerned?
India should certainly be concerned, because any conflict along our periphery is bad news for a variety of reasons, including, I will say, with Mr. Gul knows, even your polio campaign can't go through in the Khyber Pakhtunkhwa areas. There are new variants of polio coming out, and these things spread very fast. Disease is endemic. I mean, that's a separate issue. Mr. Gul, what I'm trying to tell you is, what the Taliban are saying is that this is your problem. The TTP are Pakistanis. They are from your country. Just about 100 kilometers down, you've got Lucky Marwat, where the police have rebelled against the army because it is interfering. They're saying, leave us alone, we'll sort this conflict out. You've got the Pashtun Tahaffuz movement, which wants peace in the neighborhood, and he's being locked down. So it is a case of, to my view, it is a case of bad handling of an issue where you are creating the terrorist acts. That's what the Taliban are telling you. It's your problem. You are creating this. And if you're going to say that
they came and butchered,
by the way,
16
sorry, the
Pakistani
UN
soldiers 2 days
resolution
ago,
is talking about the Islamic State and its various factions. It's talking about, certainly about IMU. Islamic State, the Taliban is doing the best it can, which Russia has acknowledged. That is why it's so friendly. China has acknowledged that Taliban is doing what it can against these international terrorist groups. The TTP comes in a different segment, that's all.
All right, we're extremely running short of time, Dr. Karta and Mr. Imtiaz Gul. Thank you very much for speaking to NDTV. We'll slip into a very short break, but more on the other side. Welcome back. You're watching India Global. A horrific tragedy has taken place in Kazakhstan. A passenger plane from Azerbaijan Airlines, it in fact burst into flames, crashing near the Aktaus city of Kazakhstan. The plane, it had reportedly requested an emergency landing before this incident. The flight was carrying 67 passengers on board, including 5 crew members. According to reports, the plane was flying from Baku to Grozny in Russia's Chechnya. However, it was rerouted due to a fog in Grozny. The Kazakh transport minister, he said, and I quote, "A plane doing the Baku-Grozny route crashed near the city of Aktau. It belongs to Azerbaijan Airlines." Now, videos on social media, it showed the aircraft rapidly losing altitude and bursting into flames upon crashing. It is not yet clear how many people have died, but preliminary information revealed that around 25 people have been rescued so far. This also includes an 11-year-old boy and a 16-year-old teenager as well. Several visuals also showed ambulances at the crash site as the survivors, they were being deboarded from the emergency exit located at the rear end of this entire aircraft. A video, it showed the aircraft rapidly losing altitude and started banking to its right. It then crashed into an open field and burst into flames. In fact, let's listen in to what the Russian President Vladimir Putin had to say on this crash.
Прежде чем мы начнем работу, к сожалению, должен сказать несколько слов о трагедии, которая произошла сегодня в Актау. Разбился самолет, есть погибшие, раненых много. И, как мы сейчас только с вами и говорили, я от вашего имени хочу выразить соболезнования семьям погибших и всем пострадавшим. Будем надеяться на их выздоровление. По согласованию с президентом Казахстана в Актау вылетает.
And I'm currently joined by RT correspondent Umema Ishahar. Umema, just break it down for us. How many survivors are there? What is their condition? And also, prima facie, is there a sense that there was a technical failing or something else?
Of course, as you mentioned, the crash was eventually confirmed by Kazakhstan's emergency services. Now, there are conflicting reports about the reason behind this crash, one of them being a collision with a flock of birds, the other one being fog. And the pilot sent in a signal, an SOS signal, and tried to land in Kazakhstan, but flight radar shows that the plane was doing circles in the air in Kazakhstan right before it crashed. And the fire broke out. Emergency services already were at the scene and they carried out their rescue operations. Now, the airline did publish a list of passengers that were on board, and we have information that over 60 people were on board, including 5 crew members. But the number of victims and survivors remains unknown. What we know is emergency services stated that at least 32 people survived the crash, including 2 children, one being an 11-year-old child and one being a 16-year-old boy, and they are in the hospital. There may be more survivors. We still don't know. Now, reports also claim that an oxygen tank on board exploded, and that left passengers losing consciousness on board. Now, it's claimed that the oxygen tank blew out after the aircraft hit a flock of birds. An aviation expert did state that the plane was almost out of control. He says that there could be a number of reasons behind the situation, and it could be a control systems failure or other reasons that we don't know. The Kazakh president, though, did offer a special commission to conduct an investigation to see what happened behind this crash. And in a statement, Azerbaijan Airlines also said that it would keep members of the public updated on the situation. So this is overall what we know on the situation so far, but the real reason behind the crash still remains unknown.
All right, Umema Ishahar, thank you very much for speaking with NDTV and giving us all the details there. Meanwhile, in the latest move in asserting its growing influence, China has said that the BRICS bloc, where Beijing plays a very key role, is growing into one of the main platforms in order to promote solidarity and cooperation within the social global south. Now, with a new list of BRICS partners, the countries finally agreed upon between members countries such as Indonesia, Cuba, Kazakhstan, Uganda, among others. The BRICS bloc has greater representation now. The Chinese Foreign Ministry has in fact noted this. Earlier, Russia stated that on the 1st of January 2025, Belarus, Bolivia, Indonesia, Kazakhstan, Cuba, Malaysia, Thailand, Uganda, and Uzbekistan, they will officially become members of the BRICS bloc as well, expanding the bloc further with 9 new members. And in a new topic of contention for the president-elect Donald Trump, he in fact hit out at President Joe Biden for commuting the sentences of almost every American federal prisoner on death row as Trump returns to White House in less than a month. President Biden, in his final month in office, announced that Monday he was converting the sentences of 37 of the 40 federal inmates awaiting execution to life. Time now for a very short break. More news on the other side. Welcome back. In the latest in the turmoil that has taken over Bangladesh, Sanjeeb Wazed, the son of the ousted Bangladesh Prime Minister Sheikh Hasina, he has accused the interim government led by Muhammad Yunus of weaponizing the judiciary. He has also said that they are carrying out a political witch hunt against Sheikh Hasina as well as the Awami League leadership there. These allegations, they come 2 days after the Yunus government has sent a diplomatic note to New Delhi seeking Hasina's extradition from India. Bangladesh's International Crimes Tribunal has issued alert warrants arrest warrants for Sheikh Hasina and several former cabinet ministers, advisors, and military and civil officials for what they say are crimes against humanity and genocide. Now, in his post, Wazed said that the judges and prosecutors appointed by the unelected Yunus-led regime to conduct farcical trial process through International Crimes Tribunal makes it a political witch hunt that forsakes justice and marks another ongoing onslaught to persecute Awami League leadership. Meanwhile, both Wazed and Hasina, they are facing a corruption probe as well for allegedly embezzling $5 billion from the Russia-backed Rupur nuclear power plant project. Allegations which Sanjeeb Wazed has denied. Now, amid the growing violence against minority Hindus in Bangladesh, Yunus is also facing pressure from the US to ensure the protection of minorities. After US National Security Advisor Jake Sullivan, he held a call with the interim government chief. In fact, I'm also currently joined by our guests at this moment. I have with me Major Razaul Karim, EB retired researcher and analyst from Dhaka. I also have with me Veena Sikri, former ambassador to Bangladesh. A very warm welcome to both of you on NDTV. My first question to you, Ms. Sikri, is, the former ambassador to the Bangladesh's foreign ministry, it has said that it has yet to receive a response from India on its extradition request. How will India at this moment handle this dilemma?
Well, I think our government has been very correct and has said that there is no comment at the moment, because I think this is quite amazing to think that Bangladesh is already talking in terms of a reminder letter, when actually the first letter is barely 24 or 48 hours old. And I think we must appreciate that an extradition process is an extremely complicated legal and judicial process. And to say that just on the basis of a diplomatic note verbal that the Bangladesh unelected, constitutionally invalid regime of Professor Muhammad Yunus is saying that now send her back because here it is. Where is the trial? Where is the result of the legal process? There is absolutely no evidence that there has been any judicial trial or any completed judicial progress. All we know is all kinds of accusations are there about blaming Prime Minister Sheikh Hasina for various acts of commission and omission, but there is absolutely no legal process, and there's a tribunal where the judge, the head of the tribunal, has been replaced by the present unelected regime of Professor Muhammad Yunus, and replaced by somebody who was the defender, who was defending the people accused of war crimes in the previous process that was going on. So all this doesn't make any sense. There is no authority for the Muhammad Yunus government to change judges. They were changed by the process of mobocracy. The previous judges were surrounded and were forced to step down, and new people have been appointed. All this doesn't give any confidence to the process ongoing in Bangladesh. You spoke, for example, of the call by a National Security Advisor of the USA to Professor Muhammad Yunus. And in that call, Mr. Jake Sullivan spoke about his interest in having a stable, prosperous and democratic Bangladesh. But at the moment, neither of these terms apply to what is happening in Bangladesh. There is no stability in Bangladesh at all. Professor Muhammad Yunus does not seem to be in control. The Jamaat-e-Islami and other Islamist parties and organizations are taking all the decisions without having any authority at all, despite the fact some of them, like claim to be from Hizb ut-Tahrir, they've been even sworn in as advisors. Hifazat al-Islam members have been sworn in as advisors. So we don't know. Even the whole system of interim government formation cannot be called as a government. It's just a regime or an administration, because there is no constitutional validity. So there is no democracy of any kind whatsoever. Neither is there any stability, nor is any prosperity. The economy is going down. So I do not know on what basis this kind of letter and a reminder. We should not make the process of extradition a farcical one. It is a very serious process. It is a serious process based on judicial decisions by a legally valid judiciary. And all this has to be taken into account, has to be given to the Indian government together with a letter before you can even start looking into it. None of this has happened.
All right, all right. We'll try and find those answers. Major Karim, as the United States is now taking note of this entire situation that has emerged in Bangladesh after Yunus government came to power and Sheikh Hasina fled the country, can we expect Dhaka to come up with a response now?
Yeah, thank you. I'm really quite amazed to listen Mrs. Sikri. Basically, she was mentioning about the process. She was mentioning about the democratic status in Bangladesh. Actually, I will have questions to her that if you truly mention all those things right now, then you should compare the past 15 years, what happened in Bangladesh, especially election in 2014, election in 2018, and every time Sheikh Hasina, that means Awami government, they had not been following the democratic process. And about the Yunus government, the one she was mentioning, that justice and the judicial management or judicial process, the one she was mentioning, right now the judicial process is absolutely okay. Why? Because all on a sudden, you cannot do everything or you cannot have a massive change. Actually, at the time of Sheikh Hasina or during her regime, actually the judicial process or the our judicial department, it was totally polluted. It was totally non-functional. And right now, Dr. Muhammad Yunus and his government is working very actively, but it needs some time. And about US response to US government, yes, Dr. Muhammad Yunus is very positive and he is very proactive. Not only US, he is also he has replied to the European Union, also some other countries, the European community. They have communicated to Bangladesh, and also we are replying the same. And about our the local political parties, Jamaat Islami and BNP and other political parties, they are quite positive towards the Yunus government. Yes, there is one-sided complaint towards Yunus government, that is Awami League. And Awami League, the political party chief, Sheikh Hasina, is staying in India. And I will request our Indian government and also Indian bureaucrats or especially the media, they should have a very positive gesture towards Bangladesh. Thereby, we can get cooperation from India. If India preoccupiedly shows negative gesture towards this government, we cannot build strong relationships with India.
Okay,
and
Veena Sikri, do response to what Major Karim has said. And also the question arises is, Sheikh Hasina being in India and with the new government demanding Sheikh Hasina that she must return back to Bangladesh, do you think this situation will really impact the equation between the two countries here?
Our government has been very clear. On the first day itself, we conveyed to the Bangladesh interim regime that we are prepared to talk to them, we are prepared to continue the relationship, and we've always said that we want to carry on the positive, multifaceted development, cooperation, infrastructure development, and all these aspects that have been built with the government of Bangladesh over decades. I mean, since 1971, you know, the open letter we wrote to the people of Bangladesh, signed by more than almost 700 people of India, and conveying that we want friendship, but we want democracy. I think our Prime Minister, in his first message to the new chief advisor, he conveyed that we want to have, we felicitate you, but we want that there should be security of all the people. What about the attacks on the minorities? The first thing I must say, that we have always dealt with an elected government in Bangladesh. What your colleague from Bangladesh is saying, that Prime Minister Sheikh Hasina, the elections were not this or that. The other parties refused to take part in the elections. There were international observers at those elections. International observers were there at every election from all countries, from the EU, from India, from other countries. Now, when you have an internationally certified election, you deal with that government. And India has always dealt with the elected government in Bangladesh. And I've always tried to develop good relations with the elected government in Bangladesh. This is not an elected government in Bangladesh, and the present is just a regime which seems to have been sworn in on the constitution, but they have sworn in on a constitution which has no provision for an interim regime. of this kind. And then for the government to come in and say that we will first have reforms and then have elections.
Mr. Karim,
the
do
people
respond.
Of Bangladesh seem to be unhappy.
Mr. Karim, do respond to Veena Sikri. And, from Sheikh Hasina's son, he has also talked about the witch hunt that is being carried out by the interim government against his mother as well as the party that she belonged to. Respond to that as well.
Yeah, actually, once I was listening, Mrs. Veena Sikri, that I was feeling the flavor that maybe somebody from, she's the way she is talking, maybe kind of acting spokesperson to Awami League. Actually, see, you need to be
please, I want to intervene here, please. I want to intervene here. Yeah. There is no such, I am talking as a citizen of India. I am talking as a citizen of India. Please don't make any kind of allegations. You have no right, no authority to make any allegations of any kind. I am talking as a citizen of India who has had the most wonderful friendship during the time that I was in Bangladesh, even though there was the Begum Khaleda Zia's government. No kind of political affiliation of any kind. So please do not make any allegations.
Yes, Mr. Karim, please go ahead with your response.
If you truly want a friendship, trust me, we at first need to avoid hate speech. We need to avoid the giving negative speech against Bangladesh, against our, thereby we are increasing communal riots, communal violence.
May I say that we need to avoid attacking the minorities of Bangladesh, the Hindus, the Buddhists, and the Christians. This is not something we are saying. Please stop defining this as Indian media propaganda when the whole world is talking
there is
about
in fact, Veena Sikri and Major Karim, there is a lot of pressure from across the board on the interim government at the moment. The big question is, how will Yunus government protect the minorities? And has Dhaka launched a witch hunt against Sheikh Hasina? These are the questions that still remain. A big thank you to both of you for joining us and putting your views for all of us. Time now for a very short break. More news and updates on the other side. Welcome back. Some news now from the world of tech. In a surprising move, Apple has been asked to participate in Google's upcoming US antitrust trial over online search, arguing that it cannot depend on Google to defend their multi-billion-dollar revenue-sharing agreements. Now, these deals, it makes Google the default engine, the search engine on Apple's Safari browser, netting Apple an estimated $20 billion in 2022 alone. Now, Apple's lawyers, they say that the company has no plans to build its own search engine and will call witnesses in the trial scheduled for April. Now, prosecutors, they are expected to push for drastic measures against Google, including the potential sale of its Chrome browser or Android OS to restore competition in the online search market. My colleague Sharath Nair brings us all the details.
So let's start with a very brief context. I won't be quoting or paraphrasing, but back in August of 2024, in a US court, Honorable Amit P. Mehta ruled that Google has been illegally exploiting its market dominance, and it is doing so to kill, squash competition and thereby stifle innovation. Now, in my personal opinion, it was a big deal for three major reasons. One, Google or Alphabet, it is one of the world's largest companies, and of course, they are innovators as well. Two, the Google search engine in question, it processes nearly 8.5 billion search queries every day. Third, Google is more than just a service, it is a verb. You know how, like you say, Google NDTV for the latest news from across our planet. I mean, from a global perspective, Google is the default, even on Apple iPhones across most geographies. And that is where Apple enters this story, because Apple has asked to participate in Google's upcoming US antitrust trial over online search. Two things to note here. This is business. I am reading from a document submitted by Apple reps in the United States District Court for the District of Columbia. Google Search is currently the default search engine on Safari in the United States. Now, this means that when a user enters a question or a query into the address bar, Safari searches on Google by default. But users can, of course, change that default by choosing an alternative like Yahoo, Microsoft Bing, DuckDuckGo, or Ecosia. But secondly, Most importantly, in exchange for distributing Google search on Apple devices, Google shares with Apple a percentage of the revenue generated from Apple users, their search queries. In 2022, Google paid Apple roughly $20 billion under this deal. Like I said, this is business. In the petition, Apple has expressed interest in calling witnesses to testify under an oath because according to Apple and Google, they're not competitors. Apple won't compete in the search engine space now or in the near future. In fact, they're stepping in because Google can no longer adequately represent Apple's interests. Honestly, I personally feel like Google is in a very tight space. Search, after all, search, it is the epicenter of everything else that Google does. And on the day of the trial, prosecutors will be highlighting multiple steps that Google will be made to take. The two most painful ones being selling Chrome browser and Android. Of course, Alphabet, Google's parent company, is doing everything it can to shine a light on what they're saying is the premise of this case. Exclusive deals, like the one they have with Apple, Google might end such deals in the future. They might even not enter agreements with Android smartphone manufacturers to require, setting Google as the default search engine for using these phones. But in any case, the US Department of Justice versus Google case might even end up changing how we talk every day. So let me start by saying, why search? Just type ndtv.com on your browser or actually get our app to stay updated about developments in this case.
All right, while the world celebrates Christmas, air raid sirens, they rung across Ukraine as the over 3-year-long war in Ukraine saw fresh strikes, with Kiev claiming Russian missiles attacked Ukraine's energy system and some cities in what Ukrainian President Zelensky has called as inhuman on a Christmas day. The strikes, it wounded at least 6 people in the northeastern city of Kharkiv, and 500,000 people in the region were left without heating in temperatures just a few degrees Celsius above zero. There were blackouts in the capital, Kiev, and elsewhere. Ukraine's military said its air defenses downed 59 Russian missiles and 54 drones overnight. And on Wednesday morning, and in Russia's Kursk region, Ukrainian troops successfully repelled and repeated Russian assaults. There was no comment from Russia on the attacks. Meanwhile, Russia claimed that its forces had seized control of another settlement in eastern Ukraine's Donetsk region. And Israel is ramping up its military response to Yemen's Houthi rebels. In fact, Defense Minister Israel Katz, he has announced on Tuesday that Israel will now target the group's leadership. This move, it marks a significant escalation after weeks of missiles and drone strikes from Yemen that have intensified tensions in the region. In fact, earlier this week, a missile fired from Yemen was intercepted near Tel Aviv, but not before sirens triggered panic and left one woman seriously injured. This was the 4th such attack in just a week, underscoring the growing threat to Israeli civilians. The Houthis, backed by Iran, have been a key player in attacks on Israeli shipping in the Red Sea, further complicating the regional security landscape. Katz's comments also targeted the Houthis' Iranian sponsors, warning that they would pay the full price for supporting Houthi terror. The Houthis' persistent aggression, including disruptions to global shipping lanes, has sparked widespread concern over regional stability. As Israel prepares for more direct confrontations, the international community faces mounting pressure to address the growing Houthi threat. Now, while the war has ravaged Gaza, with over 45,000 people killed in over 1 year-long war, Bethlehem, the city in the occupied West Bank that the Christians believe is the birthplace of Jesus Christ, marked yet another solemn Christmas under the shadow of Israel-Gaza war. In fact, watch this report to see how Palestinians are celebrating Christmas in a vision of hope amid despair. In the heart of Gaza City, amid ruins and despair, the Church of the Holy Family stands as a sanctuary of faith and hope. On Christmas Eve, Palestinian Christians gathered here for a somber yet resilient mass, seeking solace in the birth of Christ. Even as war shadows their lives.
السنة هذه كان قاسي كثير علينا والسنة هذه قاسية بأجواء الحرب وبالشهداء وبالحياة اللي احنا عايشينها، مش قادرين يعني ايش نعبر عنها. شيء مأساة كثير صعبة، لكن لازم نعيد بمجيء ومولد سيدنا المسيح.
Najla is one of many who have found refuge in the church after being displaced by the war that erupted in October last year. Her voice carries a shared hope, a wish to return to Bethlehem next Christmas. Bethlehem, the biblical birthplace of Jesus, mirrors the muted celebrations in Gaza. For the second consecutive year, the ongoing Israel-Hamas conflict has cast a long shadow on the Holy Land. Christians, a minority in the Holy Land, persevere. Around 182,000 live in Israel, 50,000 in the West Bank, and just 1,300 in Gaza. For them, this season of joy comes with a plea for peace. Across the border, a different kind of resilience is remembered. Yonah Brief, a 23-year-old Israeli combat medic, became a symbol of defiance. Critically wounded during Hamas's October 7 attack, briefly fought for her life for over a year before succumbing to his injuries last month.
What we say in Hanukkah is we say that the shemen zayit, the olive oil, was pure, the oil that they found. And each night we light the candles, and he is like the pure, like the pure oil that we light at Hanukkah. Just a simple soul who loved life.
His journey from the battlefield to the hospital inspired many. After losing both legs and enduring 20 surgeries, his determination became a beacon of hope for doctors and soldiers alike. Yonah's story reflects on the cost of this conflict. Over 800 Israeli soldiers have died since October 7, while in Gaza, the toll has reached nearly 45,000 Palestinians, according to health officials. In a land where faith intertwines with struggle, Christmas in Gaza and beyond is not just a celebration. It is a prayer for peace, a call for an end to despair, and a hope for a brighter tomorrow. With Rhythm Arcadia, NDTV World.
That's all we have for you. Keep watching NDTV World. Hello and welcome. You're watching India Global. I'm Osama Shaba. Merry Christmas to all. We'll get you all the highlights of the day and the big stories. But first, let's take a look at the headlines. A passenger plane with over 70 people on board crashes in Kazakhstan. Plane bursts into flames after crashing near Aktau. The plane had requested for emergency landing. Reports indicate at least 25 have survived. Pakistan targets Taliban bases in Afghanistan, killing 46 in the country. This is the second such strike by Pakistan against Kabul this year. The latest from Bangladesh, the ousted Prime Minister Sheikh Hasina's son, he denies graft allegations in Rupur nuclear project. As millions of Ukrainians celebrate Christmas Day, Russia has launched a major missile and drone attack on the country's energy infrastructure. Zelensky terms these strikes inhumane. Apple seeks to defend Google's billion-dollar payments in search case. Well, the big story that we are tracking at the top of this hour, in rare airstrikes, Pakistan targeted multiple suspected hideouts of the Pakistani Taliban inside Afghanistan, killing at least 46 people, including women and children. These strikes, targeting a mountainous area in Paktika province bordering Pakistan, reportedly aim to target alleged hideouts and training facilities of the Pakistani Taliban, known as Tehreek-e-Taliban Pakistan, or the TTP. This is reportedly the second such Pakistani attack on Afghanistan, the last being in March in the border regions inside Afghanistan. Now, Islamabad often claims that the TTP use Afghan soil to launch attacks in Pakistan, a charge Kabul has denied. Afghanistan has vowed to retaliate to the Pakistani airstrikes, saying the bombing targeted civilians, including women and children, mostly being refugees from the Waziristan region.
Late on Tuesday, sounds of explosions rocked a mountainous region in Afghanistan. According to reports, Pakistan targeted multiple suspected hideouts of the Pakistani Taliban inside its neighboring nation. The strikes were carried out in the Paktika province bordering Pakistan, killing at least 46 people, including women and children. Reports quoting Pakistani officials suggest that the strikes also dismantled a training facility and killed some insurgents. It was reportedly the second such Pakistani attack on alleged hideouts of the Tehreek-e-Taliban Pakistan since March in the border regions inside Afghanistan. Islamabad often claims that the TTP use Afghan soil to launch attacks in Pakistan, a charge Kabul has denied. Just last week, Pakistan had said that at least 16 soldiers were killed in clashes with militants near the Afghan border. The Tehreek-e-Taliban Pakistan had reportedly claimed responsibility for the deadly raid. Tehreek-e-Taliban Pakistan was formed in 2007 as an umbrella organization of various hardline Sunni Islamist groups operating individually in Pakistan. Formed under the leadership of Baitullah Mahsood, who has since died, the TTP is rooted along the Afghanistan-Pakistan border. Some estimates suggest TTP has between 30,000 and 35,000 members. According to the United Nations, its stated objective is to overthrow the elected government of Pakistan to establish an emirate based on the interpretation of Islamic law. The Afghan government has condemned the Pakistani airstrikes and said they won't go unanswered. The strikes come hours after Pakistan's Special Representative for Afghanistan, Muhammad Sadiq, traveled to Kabul to discuss a range of issues, including how to enhance bilateral trade and improve ties. With Vishal Vivek, Bureau Report for NDTV World.
Well, we'll try and understand the consequences of these attacks. And to give us some context, I'm currently joined by an Afghan journalist, Khushal Asifi. Khushal, just put it into context for us, this escalation that has taken place. What does this mean in the larger context?
Thank you very much for having me in the show. I convey my greeting to all the viewers of India TV and your guest in the panel. This is not the first time that Pakistan attacked Afghanistan. Actually, Pakistan has attacked Afghan soil since the establishment of Pakistan in 1974. The country has violated Afghanistan's sovereignty many times, contributing instability within Afghanistan. 2 days ago, they have also took the responsibility of attacking an Afghan employee's vehicle that they were carrying India consulate in Jalalabad. They have attacked an translator and 2 and 3 of the YouTube of the Twitter account, which is related to Pakistan intelligence services. They have took the responsibility and said that Mr. Dawood was our target, our direct target. 1 week ago, the Pakistan Defense Minister, Mr. Khwaja Asif, has also said that Mahmoud Ghaznavi is a looter. Mahmoud Ghaznavi is a thief. Actually, Mahmoud Ghaznavi is our national hero. He is a part of our rich history. These all allegations and these are all the things that they have done in the past 2-3 weeks against Afghanistan, against Afghan soil, it does mean that they have violated international laws. It does mean that they have violated Afghanistan's sovereignty. Actually, the problem is on the ground that they cannot tackle, they cannot fight with insurgents inside Pakistan. They have very strong bases inside Pakistan, in Pakhtunkhwa, in Quetta, in Karachi, in Waziristan. Why Pakistan government is not tackling and fighting with insurgents inside Pakistan? Instead, they are coming and attacking on Afghan soil. This is just an allegation. There is no enough witness and proof that they can prove that we have killed. Actually, the number that I have until now is 51 people killed, including children, including women, in Barmal and then the Patan districts of Paktika, which is a province that has a shared border with Pakistan.
Right. All right, Khushal Asifi, thank you very much for putting everything in perspective for us. In fact, I'm also currently joined by Dr. Tara Karta, former Director, National Security Council. I also have with me Imtiaz Gul, a senior journalist from Pakistan. My first question to you, Mr. Gul, has the TTP been further bolstered by the Islamic attacks on the Taliban government?
Certainly not. I mean, the job of a proxy terrorist group is to pick and choose the timing and venue of its choice just to create instability. And I think what Daesh or what TTP has been doing has drawn attention of all the countries, including that of China, of Russia. I mean, even if you discount Pakistan's allegations or Pakistan's complaints of what the TTP is doing on the Afghan soil, at the Security Council meeting on the 12th of December, I think both the Russians and the Chinese basically called on the Afghan government to take concrete steps against all the Afghanistan-based terrorist groups, and they named the ETIM, they named the IMU, the TTP, and Daesh. So I think I would also request, when you take journalists for commentary on your platform, they shouldn't be singing songs that are rooted in the history. They should also go by the data. So what this Mr. Faruqi was saying, it sounded so one-sided charade of allegations.
Okay.
So I think there are certain facts, realities. The reality is that right now, whether it's the United Nations report from July 2024, whether it's the Russian and Chinese and the American speeches at the UN Security Council, they all point to one reality, and that reality is that all major Al-Qaeda affiliated terrorist groups are right now based in Afghanistan, and one of them, that is the TTP, is continuously attacking Pakistani targets. So this is what the Pakistani Air Force apparently tried to take out, the sanctuaries of the TTP in Paktika provinces, that is the east of Afghanistan.
All right, Dr. Tara Karta, you heard Mr. Gul. Do respond to him, but also another big question that arises